What in the ever-loving Twilight Edward colon is this? The show Ginny and Georgia is trash, and I am a raccoon. Hey, I'm Nicole, you don't care that much, let's move on. Before watching Ginny and Georgia, I received 3 signs from God or whomever that this show was going to be a lot. The first was on Twitter when Taylor Swift got incredibly pissed at this joke.
What do you care? You go through men faster than Taylor Swift.
Which, yes, unfunny to begin with, but wow, there was a lot of backlash for this. The second was the infamous oppression Olympics scene.
Your favorite fruit is cheeseburgers, and I know more Mandarin than you do. You're barely even Asian.
Sorry, I'm not Chinese enough for you. But I've never seen you pound back jerk chicken. Last time I checked, Brody twerks better than you. And I liked your poem, but your bars could use a little more work, homie. Oppression Olympics. Let's go.
The third sign was this writer on Vulture comparing the show to Guy Fieri's trash can nachos because it's just so much. So yeah, I knew it was going to be a mess, and I also knew that I was going to finish it in less than a day. Ginny and Georgia is a Netflix dramedy that was released a little over a month ago. It mainly follows Ginny Miller and her goddess of a single mother, Georgia Miller, who had Ginny when she was 15, as they moved to a New England town for a fresh start. The issue with Ginny and Georgia is it tries to be everything for everyone, addressing an impressive number of social issues that each could be standalone topics for a show, but not really giving any of them much time or attention before it shuttles us on to the next big topic. We start off in a classroom where Virginia, aka Ginny, gives us some narrated exposition about her mom and her opinions on sex. Interesting start.
You better make sure you're getting something. Otherwise, you're just getting screwed. It was a really effective sex talk. I'm still a virgin. Virginia Miller?
Like a minute into the show, Georgia's husband, Kenny, dies in a car accident, and I'm sensing a pattern of tonal whiplash. Virginia, Georgia, and Austin, which, cool, names after places, this is clearly a family of nomads, drive to Massachusetts. This conversation establishes some important facts, such as Ginny seems to be much more mature than her free spirit of a mother. The family obviously leaves for fresh starts pretty often, as this is move number 5. The writers love jamming pop culture references into barely tenable analogies.
It looks like Paul Revere boned a pumpkin spice latte.
And both Ginny and Georgia are wary of the police. We get some backstory through flashback that Georgia used to be abused and used to be called Mary. These frequent flashback scenes are pretty oddly juxtaposed with Georgia's current bright, happy-go-lucky persona and Ginny's odyssey through familiar high school tropes. These massive tone shifts between what often seem like 2 very different shows are jarring and occur often. Oh my god, I spent so much time wondering where I knew this neighbor from, and turns out she's Jocelyn from Schitt's Creek. Points for that alone. This neighbor, who immediately becomes Georgia's best friend, also has a son called Marcus, and Marcus looks far too emotionally unavailable to not be Ginny's love interest. A good detail that I need to mention here, for Ginny's first day of school, Georgia asks her to wear what she calls a
White and bougie table knit sweater.
And later in the show, we see Ginny voluntarily don the sweater as she tries to fit into a predominantly white circle. Through Ginny, the show does attempt to portray the biracial experience, i.e. how Ginny doesn't feel like she belongs anywhere. I'm not mixed, so although I do get the aspect of not being claimed by either side of a dual identity, I can't exactly comment on the accuracy for someone who's actually mixed. Personally, I think that the show doesn't do a good job of resolving or even addressing beyond a surface level what it must mean to be biracial beyond experiencing microaggressions. But I think at the very least, some people might find some comfort in seeing a representation of themselves on the screen. Anyway, Georgia has trouble sleeping and thus commences a scene that convinced me that a woman wrote this show. She can't sleep, she takes out her vibrator, the vibrator dies, and she just sits there waiting for it to charge. My fellow women, a universal experience. Georgia later runs out to ask Marcus for weed to help her sleep. Is he into her? Georgia takes Austin to school.
Would Harry Potter be scared? No, but Ron would. Yeah, well, Ron's a pussy.
And meets some stereotypically bitchy PTA moms, and meanwhile at her high school, Ginny experiences some really unsubtle microaggressions from her AP English teacher.
I'm very serious about my education, Mr. Gittin. I'm worried I might internalize an ideology that the main viewpoint, the viewpoint worth studying in class, the viewpoint of the greats, is only that of the white male. Thus eradicating my voice is immaterial. And finally, I'm worried I won't be stimulated intellectually.
One of my gripes with Ginny and Georgia is the, at times, horrible dialogue. I know this is supposed to be an epic takedown and everything, but it really gives me those and then everyone stood up and clapped kind of vibes. After class, she finds Marcus, and who knows how long he's just been standing there.
It's Monday.
What kind of cultural wasteland are you from? You've never heard of the band Wednesday?
Yeah, I have. They have that one song.
They don't exist. I just made them up.
God, what an asshole. Second gripe is the characterization. This is Max, Ginny's first friend and twin sister of love interest Marcus.
Look, if I'm being an offensive dick, it's just because we have more Starbucks than black people. So, why'd you move to Wellsbury? My stepdad died. I saw the most gruesome motorcycle accident this one time. This guy's arm was literally like 4 lanes away from the rest of him. Oh, I didn't mean to bring up painful memories for you. It's just, I really love all that gruesome shit, I'm so morbid. I've seen every episode of SVU, and I only listen to podcasts about girls like me getting brutally murdered.
What if the only place you ever felt you belong is in a dark room watching The Office?
She's just a lot. Very much a quirky, gay best friend that's being shoved down our throats. The main characters are a bit more fleshed out from the get-go. At least in the first episode, Ginny is an understandably disillusioned, angsty teen. I was a bit unsure of who she was beyond that, because here she comes across as reserved, self-conscious, and people-pleasing, yet also has that showdown with that teacher on her first day. Some of this can be explained by her character also not being sure of what her identity is, and also Ginny's struggles with mental health. However, she starts making increasingly questionable decisions, and as the show progressed, she kind of lost me. Georgia, on the other hand, was always an entertaining enigma, but how do I say this? She doesn't really change, but for some reason just seems less human and believable to me. She's the same kind of slick and collected even as things wildly escalate. Of course, there are many hints along the way that Georgia will stop at nothing to get what she wants. First, she purposely bumps into the town's mayor and most eligible bachelor and tries to charm her way into a job. I'd note, this is the most eligible bachelor when this guy exists? Georgia's credit card is declined because there's been a problem with her ex-husband's will. The dead man's ex-wife before Georgia thinks that Georgia is shady and then is trying to contest the will. Georgia's card is declined again when she tries to buy a bag, and so she just steals it. Georgia's motives are purportedly to protect her family, but this one might be a little harder to justify. Another instance of her wild moral compass is when she gets her kid to punch his bully in the face and then bullies that bully into silence. I mean, what if he squeals? But back to Ginny. Marcus walks into a room she's in a way that made my face just shrivel up, like puckering into itself like an asshole. Oh my god, the music as he walks in. As she leaves, she sees Marcus outside with his motorcycle because, of course, he has one.
Girls always wanted to stay on the bike. All right, where's your phone? Hey.
She's not like other girls, Marcus. Ginny kisses Marcus and then finds out that he has a girl already. And then Georgia sees all this from above and gets angry because she sees Ginny about to make the same mistake that she did 15 years ago. This guy, Hunter, who you might remember from the Oppression Olympics clip, is interested in Ginny and asks her on a date. This 15 going on 35-year-old man utters the words,
"Get juicy with it."
After this date, they hug. And for people who are supposedly interested in each other, these two have -5 chemistry. That night, Marcus climbs into Ginny's bedroom, and what in the ever-loving Twilight Edward Cullen shit is this? Apparently, he's heard about her date with Hunter and just cannot resist her. And then the two have sex. You ever heard of sex on the first date? Well, I raise you sex in the pilot of a YA storyline. Which really gets me, because what? Ginny is reserved, and she has no friends. She's never kissed a guy. She is a virgin. Is there no anxiety about, how to do that? Plus, her having met him, less than 24 hours ago and knowing nothing about him, and he's got a girl, and he climbed through your window? There's impulsive, and then there's this. We later learned that Marcus was also a virgin, which I find unbelievable how neither of them noticed. We also find out that he doesn't think Padma is his girlfriend, which makes it even more confusing because then what is he with her for? He doesn't seem emotionally open, nor does he seem to care about her at all. So what do? He just keeps her around to make out sometimes? Anyway, in the last 5 minutes of this episode, it's revealed that Ginny was molested by Georgia's late ex-husband, and for that, Georgia poisoned him.
Power is cold.
Nice, cold tones.
It's about control. It's a game.
I couldn't tell you how she knew he'd be driving when it kicked in though. But yeah, that was the first episode. I get that for a high schooler, everything seems to be happening all at once and it's all overwhelming. But in this pilot, the show touches on what? A mother-daughter dynamic, racism, sex, self-harm, being biracial, sexual abuse, theft, and a stranger climbing through his neighbor's window. So my main gripe. Throughout the season, all these issues just intensify and nothing is explored too deeply because we're just shuttled from one issue to the next. Storylines and past traumas are brought up and then barely resolved or just dropped. When Georgia reveals her past of being abused, Ginny acknowledges it for maybe 2 seconds before it's just never spoken of after. The discussion between two mixed-race characters results in this monstrosity, and it doesn't really get addressed again. There's this one black girl, Blacia, who Ginny doesn't really give the time of day until she needs to confront something about race. Like, is there a Bechdel test for minorities? Like, instead of tracking when women are talking to each other about something other than a man, minorities talking to each other about something other than being minorities. Then, in later episodes, there's an eating disorder / body dysmorphia, divorce, increased scams and embezzlement, a sociopath, a dead body, a private investigator, performative homosexuality, guns, and then, you guessed it, a tap dancing number. One of the questions you might ask yourself is, who is the show really for? Based on some of the references, at least, it seems to be for millennials, but then some of it is this coming-of-age YA theme, so maybe that's for nostalgia. I don't know. The teens, and maybe this is just to be expected at this point, often talk like what 30 to 40-year-olds think that teens sound like.
Hunter Chen is V-hot and V-cool.
I mean, maybe nobody knows. Maybe season 1 was just them putting out feelers to see what would resonate the most with their audience and then double down next season. There are definitely parts of Ginny and Georgia that I found funny and characters that I found endearing, and despite talking about the show critically, I did stay up until like 3:30 to binge the show in less than 24 hours. Ginny and Georgia has its faults, but you can't really say that it is dull. That's it. Alright, see y'all.